Oh, Elaine is not here? That's strange.
I
Maybe.
don't know if she remembers. I'll
She
just call
she
her.
was the one who asked on Monday if we have class.
Okay, I'll just ask.
Yeah, just check with her.
Hi, Aditi.
Hi, Swati.
Everyone else. Good to be back.
Good, good. I overheard Bhavani saying the strawberry was quite mean to her. Let's see now. Have you made it?
No,
Just
no, I haven't finished it. I started it and I gave up because I did the video, no?
uh-huh.
So in the video you can give up very
All right.
easily.
Yeah, that is I suppose.
But when I'm in class with you, I tend to follow through. So I finished the two others,
Okay.
but the strawberry, it didn't look even remotely, the angle was just not happening. And
Okay.
then when you started shading, I just said,
Just share a picture anyway, because sometimes the optical illusion of light versus shadow, yeah, just continue. But what is happening right now is possibly that your seeds are so
big.
precisely laid out that it's looking very artificial. It's looking more like a
Ah,
graphic. So it's easier to make things that look so uniform sometimes. But if you can just change that a little bit, just a little shade, extra shading to the left or right, that will make it possible. Also, crooked seed once in a while. So, in fact, the imperfect stroke helps to make the illustration, in a sense, perfect for the purpose. But this is my explanation to anyone who says, I can't even draw a straight line. That's why I'm not going to join the class. And I said, okay, the occasion in which when we have to have a straight line or precise measurements is almost zero. So we don't need that. Don't join an architecture class if you can't draw a straight line, but that's not this. Okay. Okay, I guess we can begin. Okay, so taking forward the food illustration bit so that we can start making recipe illustrations next week. I wanted to show you some layouts. The process of practicing for recipe illustration is threefold at least. One is to learn or practice how to make the ingredients. The second is to practice how to make a presentation, food presentation. And the third one is putting all this together along with text in a composition. So this is like a very broad segregation of topics. And you can separately try to practice each of these and change some or the other element and come to a composition that pleases you. Since we are working with handmade stuff and since we are working with personal recipes, you don't have to worry about how your recipe is going to look if you submit it to the book, because if I tell everyone in class to make a recipe of a tomato soup or something, everyone's recipe is going to be different, the skill level is going to be different, so it's just going to look different. You have to make the most of whatever skill level you have. So today I just want to go over the kind of presentation you should look for, giving you some kind of formulaic um, I guess, points so that you don't feel completely overwhelmed when putting down pictures of food. Let me share the pictures that I've put on the group and then I can speak about it a little better. So, some of the best compositions work with color. If you're working with raw ingredients, then anything that has more color. Most raw ingredients have beautiful colors, so you can pair that with a complement. So the complement color of orange is blue. So this is like the most no-brainer idea. The complement of yellow will be purple. The complement of red will be blue. So you can literally just use the color wheel, and if it's a single ingredient, two ingredient, similar color thing, pair it with another. This gives us adequate contrast, and the contrasting color works as a wonderful base for to uplift the food that you are trying to showcase. Same thing over here, but there is also an additional element of repetition. So the tablecloth also has lemons on it, lemons with blue colored leaves, and the blue color of the leaves has become the pattern on the rest of the tablecloth. Could be a different tablecloth or piece of cloth altogether, may not be the same. And then you have blue colored stripes on one bowl, and the other bowl seems to have some kind of pattern on the inside, but it's negligible. So we consider this as just plain white. So the dominant color here is yellow. You can also assess what the picture is trying to do. If you are, for example, going to make a recipe for lemonade or lemon cheesecake or something like that, you want to showcase more of the lemon. You don't have to show the cheesecake for that. You can just show lemons, and that becomes your illustration. And then the text can supply all the information about the cheesecake. Excuse me. Okay, now we come to the Indian food problem in illustration, which is colorful puddles. How do you make the colorful puddles look enticing? When we look at the puddles, we know what they stand for and we imagine the taste. So we are fine. But in an illustration, it can be a little frustrating that you're trying to show this really luscious chutney or sambar or curry or something, and all you have to do is add more and more of the same color. That is where we can focus on the garnishes. So some places, and our garnishes are pretty much the same everywhere, but they break the monotony of the single color. And you don't have to then try to master this whole technique of showing the depth of this bowl and the highlight. It is too detailed, and you don't have to go there as long as you show these garnishes. So we'll try making some of these. Okay, so I'm going to try and show you how to make these in a very simplistic style, like the second style that we did. We did the artichoke in. Something close to that, not exactly the same thing. So our forms are going to be very fluid. Keep your hand moving loosely, but firmly. Don't make your lines too weak. It should not. You should not think of it as a like. Let me just hint at a lemon or hint at an orange. Just bindas draw it. It will look like an orange if you say it's an orange. All right. So we'll start off with the first illustration. And it's fairly simple. We just have to show circles and ovals. Just because we are trying to make a composition here, let's make the plate of oranges over here. Then we'll make the 3 chutneys over here and the lemons over here on the right hand side. So we'll switch between these 3. Hopefully we can make all of them. All right. So I know you all must be pretty scared of making a circle. So we are going to attempt to make a circle, but don't insist on it. And start from one side, hold the pencil a little far away. If you hold the pencil here and you're going to try to make a circle, I can guarantee that you'll make a good circle till here, and then here it just starts going straight up because you don't know how far you want to go. So if you want to make a circle very lightly, only you should be able to see it. You will start seeing the kinks in that circle. And then after you're comfortable with this, you can take a pencil and complete that circle. And this time, don't hesitate. So if your circle becomes a wobbly line, that is fine. Draw about half or 3/4 and then come and join it from the other side. Do not correct these little kinks in your circle. Let it be. Now, somewhere in the middle of the circle, we want to make a concentric circle towards the center. That is going to be that little ridge that we have in a plate. And from there, we have the design. That's why we need that. But we are not going to complete that line yet. Just make it like a dotted line. So you have established the continuity of this circle. That's it. And now let's start making these oranges from the top. So you can make an orange over here. Then behind this, you will make an oval-like shape. And underneath this, you will make another circle. And if you're not sure that this is a circle, make a dotted line through to check that your orange is indeed at least a semblance of a circle. Then we have the next here, slightly higher here. Once the oranges have been placed, we can now finish this inside circle. And you don't have to then worry about whether or not it is a complete circle because we've already drawn that beforehand. So the placement of our oranges may not match the placement in the picture. In some places, your line might be too long. In some places, it might be completely hidden. We are going to ignore the lettering that is at the base of the plate. I would have loved to make it, but if we could see more than just HO over here and LON and AZI here, it would have been worth it. All right, everyone good with this? Now this oval shape, I think mine has become too oval. I'm going to make it slightly rounded from here and give it some base like this from one side. Okay, now before we address the oranges, let's look at this design. While the design can look very complicated, like any finished design of this nature does, you can break this down into repeats. So you look for one motif that is repeating throughout, and you can literally make the motif on the side to test whether that is how it should be made. So here the motif is like a spiral shape with a bell-like shape around it and a compound curve to to our left, onto which there are different leaves. And I think this whole design is made by hand, which is great for us because then we don't have to try to match it. We will automatically get it. But then each motif also has placement, and that placement is on the 8th. So if this is the center, we are just going to shift the center of the plate from making it completely upright to slightly sideways. And you can draw a line here, trace a line over here. This is going to be our 12 and 6 o'clock. And then horizontally halfway through 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And then in between these will be the next 1, 2, 3 on opposite sides. So 8 directions. So the design we are making here, we're just going to make it in a small section on the top. Start off with a small line that is vertical and make, I'm going to make this in pen. Okay, so here we go. I have a small circle on top, and then I have a spiral that goes clockwise, and then below this I have a little teardrop shape. Now there is a proportion to all of this. The circle is pretty tiny, the spiral is pretty big, but the teardrop shape is not as long as the line I had made. So I have to adjust this according to how I see it. Then you have a compound curve from this side, which comes in joins at the bottom on both sides. It does not have to look symmetric. In fact, please don't make it look too symmetrical. Then we have a leaf-like shape from the right. And on the left, give yourself a distance of about, so make a rectangle shape about this size, and its width is maybe twice the width of our flower. Our pet. I think it's a flower, or is it an apple? I don't know. I'm just going to call it a flower. So these are the proportions that we generally goof up on. Okay, and then you will just take a line that comes like this down. And we are going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals. So you make 1, okay, 2, 3, leave some gap between them, 4, 5, 6, and I don't know where my 7th is going to come, so I'm just going to make one like that over here. And once these are made, then in the spaces in between, say this large space here, you can make a spiral come out here, this come out here. One space in between, it has got a petal which has got horizontal lines. I don't know why, but it just seems to be that way. Maybe here one. So these are all just for space consumption. That's it. So this is our design. And you don't have to make this design on everything. So the trick that I use is to make one part of the design, which is first make the circle, then make that spiral and teardrop, and I do this all at the same time because I want to make sure that in my haste I'm not making one spiral too big, one spiral too small. and also the orientation remains the same. I'm not missing out on making elements like this teardrop shape. So you make one of these fully, and then you can make the stalk that goes outward, and then don't do anything on that. And you can keep rotating the book. I'm making the design upside down, but I don't think that's advisable. You have to just make sure that you're going in the right direction every time. So the strategy over here is that if our food is fairly monotonous, how much can you do with oranges? Make the background very interesting. All right, everyone with me? Do you need a minute? Okay, I'm just going to be back in a second. Okay, shall we start painting now? So in the oranges also, there is this very interesting pattern, and the orange segments are also cut in some kind of a form like that. I don't want to go too meta on this design, but it might help if we also acknowledge that there are segments here and cut or make a line that cuts across these segments, and then you can make a like an outline to each of those segments. Just round off these edges. And we are going to do negative painting like we've done in the past, so that we paint only on one side of these lines and leave some parts unpainted. We also need to accommodate some space in the middle, because these segments are not like pointy triangles that reach the center. All right, this is now how our design is going to be. I'm not making all the oranges right now. These can be done later, because that will be the, I suppose, what would be the first thing or the last thing we would do? I'm not sure now. All right, now the first thing we have to do for sure is to add these shadows. So we can make our generic gray color. So use a medium to large brush for this. I have this black in my palette, to which I'm adding, burnt umber and cobalt blue. So this is the color I'm matching for the shadow on the plate. Okay, this is what I'm looking at. And it is not black. If I were to take it in Photoshop, it actually almost looks reddish or orange because some of the color of the orange bounces onto this white plate in the shadow. But we are going to create this very general grayish, brownish gray shade. And notice where all it is present. It is on the inside of the peripheral circle, inside of the base of the plate, almost all the way around, and then on the bottom left, like the southwest side of the oranges. So we are going to go over the central orange also. Though it looks red over here, trust me, we can just go and make this shadow on the south and or southwest of all these oranges, and one large shadow underneath the plate itself. It's not really visible right now, but if we make all those shadows and we don't show the shadow at the base of the plate, it might look a little odd. Now remember that this is a painting, so you are allowed to be a little expressive. So in case your paint goes into a section that is not supposed to go in, don't worry about it too much. It's not going to change too much in the world, and it will be fine. The painting will look fine. So what I want you to do is take a very light color and test it out on your paper. This color is going to become light. If you're unsure if this is the right color, wait till this color dries. Second thing is dab your brush onto your rag and make a second swatch with slightly leftover color. So part of it you have used on the first block, partly after dabbing the brush. Do a third dab if you need to look at how light this color can go. And you should always test the range of your shadows. You don't want to put in a color that is too deep that you don't know what to do with afterwards. And literally you can continue to do this till you feel satisfied. This is the range that I have created. I think I can go even lighter. This is all from one fill of the paint. So I want my color to be somewhere in the middle, like one of these middle colors to light colors is fine. But this is the shade I have. All I need to do is make it watery enough, remove all the excess pigment to one side, take very little bit, make it watery enough, and this should be okay. This is a nice shade. When I'm moving my brush, I'm able to tell whether this shade will look good. And then here's the trick. Always hold your, oh, I messed up something here. Always hold your brush in such a way that you can see where it is painting. So I'm going to paint on the inside of this plate by pressing the brush down maybe halfway through. If it is going over the orange, I'm going to stop there and then paint again. Then I will, and keep looking at your reference image. Don't do anything outside of your reference image. Maybe a little here. Then on the inside of this, stop. Then this comes the more dramatic part. You can color this entire section dark. And then on the opposite side of the shadow on the plate inside, You can take a little more because this is going to be a long stroke, and press it halfway through. Manipulate your brush to make a slightly long, a wider stroke, and make this shadow. I think my rag needs to be washed. Oh, I'm so upset. Sorry, I'm just trying to get rid of this. Don't do this if your papers are clean. Hate marks on my paper. Okay, we have to let this dry now. Now let's try making the second composition, which would be the lemons. And this can be a fun composition. Knowing that now I have used up so much space here, maybe I'll have so much space on the side, and you may or may not want to make a frame to this. Just start making the bowls and make them like we made the artichoke. They're quite tiny. Usually when you're making ovals, you have to look at the proportion of the vertical versus the horizontal. And you can keep adjusting. When you look at, like currently my oval is too flat. The two lines on the side are not this flat. I just need to extend it a little more. So in my mind, the bowl is quite flat, but in reality, it's not. Okay, this is the first hurdle. And make the base a little from the inside of that oval shape. And then start making the ovals of the lemons, ovals or circles. Since they are all stacked one on top of the other, make them like transparent shapes. The two lemons in the foreground are going to look like circles. They're not going to look like ovals anyway. And don't make those, what are they called? The thing that's sticking out of those lemons. You can make that shape after you have established the shape of the little mound that you get. Once you're happy with the shape of the oval, then you can make that mound. Don't try to make it at the same time. And in the front, it's not even visible. It's just visible as a curve with a tip. And on the side, you again have a half oval with the tip on one side. Once this is drawn, this will give you the space or placement of the next item. Do the same here. I don't know if this is happening to you guys, but I remember when I started making still life pictures in the beginning, I would work a logic of first placing the objects at the bottom and then putting the object that I see on the top, almost like if it were real life. And that would get me into quite a soup because I barely could see what was underneath, but I felt that if I don't draw that, how am I creating a base for what is coming on top? Which is stupid because this is a picture. It doesn't have to be that logical. So it took me a while to get adjusted to the idea that draw what you see first, not how it should be first. You're not stacking it in real life. Okay, now to keep things simple, let's just make the cloth in the foreground, not the tablecloth in the background, the one which has got the lemons. That's not necessary. This way we get a nice edge for our picture also. So in case you want to make this just a small illustration on the corner of a page, it'll look beautiful. Then we have a lemon in the foreground. And then a lemon in the middle ground. Alright, now the fabric also has folds, and if you look closely, you will see the line of the fold. There is a line coming from underneath the big bowl. Then there's a line that goes from almost like a Y shape, and then there's a fold that just comes like this. Then we have a fold which is a compound curve behind here. Are you able to see these folds? Sometimes in prints it's difficult to see folds. I have a feeling that this was the reason why they started putting prints on fabric, so that if your clothes were creased, nobody could tell. Alright, let's start cleaning this up now. In this picture, we are going to make some of the shadows. We can just make them in regular pencil also later on. So don't worry about this same effect. This is too tiny to make that effect. So just get rid of a majority of the lines that you don't need. And we are going to paint the lemons in this using a color mix of lemon yellow and a little bit of gamboge. And I do this very frequently. I'll just take the color in the cake itself because I don't want it to be a very predicted shade. And just paint these lemons very casually, leaving a highlight somewhere for all the lemons. The quantity of gamboge is very little, but if you do happen to have some extra and you put it in one place and everything looks too gamboge, that's okay. So I'm going to put an extra gamboge layer over here. And in fact, you'll see that I'm encroaching onto the space of the other lemons also. Where is my... Oh, my bowl is here. How's everyone doing? Shall we proceed? Okay. All right, now let's try drawing the chutneys as well. Just do one. Let's make what are our colors? I think we'll go with the red chutney instead of the green or white. Here again, it's a circle because we're seeing it from the top, but you will realize that making that circle for a bowl is so much easier than trying to make a bowl that you're looking at from an angle. This is the rim of your bowl. Then from the sides, you will make a handle on opposite sides. This is the inside, and for the outside of the handle, I am making the line wider at the base. Just to give it a three-dimensional look, we are also going to add a small line on the inside bottom at the base of this U shape. This is just artificial. It's not there. But I'm just making it because otherwise it looks really funny. Now again, the first thing that we have to make are the garnishes. So make just tiny, almost similar shaped circles for the mustard seeds. Sorry. Distribute them all over, but you know how when you throw in this tempering, they generally gather around in the same place, more or less, but there will be a few around that will leave the bunch. Then you can draw the weirdly shaped curry leaves. Draw them as you see them. And continue to make the tempering with. Now you can make large teardrop shape or very fine almond shape like shapes to indicate the jeera. Now the entire chutney sits in like a wobbly line on the inside of this inner circle. It can be as wobbly as you want it, and if you want, you can also make some overlapping lines like that. And we are going to draw some texture lines like that. So don't make them like don't make them like that. Don't make them like this. That's not a chutney. So all you want to do is in a few places make them like this. Press your pencil down clumps of it. Okay, see the difference. Think about how that line is, and then make it. Make a few lumps on the side that you can see the shadow mostly. So we have a little bit on this side, a little bit on this side, and maintain a certain highlight-ish area in a few places. Okay. Now before we paint the chutney, let us paint one of the, oranges. So this one on top, I'm going to paint that orange. Again, the first thing to do is put a small layer of gamboge, a very light gamboge layer along the periphery of the orange. It is not white on the periphery, it is slightly white in the center. But you can, I don't want to scare you by making you paint this whole thing that gamboge color, because you'll say, how will the pith look white? It will look white, but for now you can paint the pith, keep it white.
Aditi, this is gamboge. On my screen, it's looking so lemon yellow.
It's a very light amount of
Okay.
very light.
Okay.
So lemon will be much yellower. This has a slightly warm tinge to it, but it's again, because it's so light. Had you put lemon, it wouldn't matter. It's pretty much going to do the same job that we want it to do. Now we'll prepare our orange color in two ways. One is you mix gamboge and orange, and the other one you can mix gamboge and scarlet. So these are two different orange colors you get. And there is a third orange you can get when you mix gamboge and crimson as well, but we don't need that right now. So when you want to make a grapefruit or something, that gamboge and crimson really works. Okay, now we have to do this careful painting thing. And the best bit about this careful painting is that you can paint it in vertical or radial lines like that. Because if you leave some sections unpainted, that's actually a good thing. That will make it look like highlights. So don't bother with painting the whole fruit. Leave a few lines. If you are not comfortable with a medium-sized brush, use a small brush. 0, 1, 2, any of these are fine also. And even the shape that you are painting does not have to be uniform throughout. Some of these segments can be a little bigger than the others. But just keep the space between the segments and the space between the segments and the outer peel minimal, as little as you can. Worst case scenario, if you can't manage it, you can't see it, your hand is shivering, whatever happens, we can just paint the whole thing in an orange and be done with it. Not a big deal. But before we take the easy solution, let's try this out. Once you're comfortable with this, you can also make a few dark lines in between at random as a second layer. Once the color in the segments has dried, otherwise it can look a little flat. Again, something that we can avoid, but again, if it's too much, excuse me, don't bother. So this is the only thing I feel that needs a little attention, the inside of the orange, because that is the hero of the picture. And I'm going to do this just to demonstrate what you can do on the inside, but it can be painful to watch and even more painful to make. So I leave it up to you. You make odd gray shapes inside. It's not fully filled up. Alright, so this is going to take a while. You can finish off the rest of the oranges later. Let's make the plate design. I'll just give you a minute to shift from oranges to blue plate. Alright, now in the plate we can start off with a light blue color or dark blue color. I prefer the light blue because we can always make the dark on top of that. The light blue in this case is going to be cerulean mixed with a little bit of cobalt blue. I feel a little bit of ultramarine might also help here. So we have all three shades of blue, and we will pick at random which blue we want and let it flow that way. The final color, the blue that we will make, will be ultramarine blue. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make this entire design in the light cerulean blue, or whichever this blue we made, in this manner, filling it out. So not the center spiral, because that is not filled out, but we have drawn that. And using that same color, we will make the embellishment on the side, that leaf pattern. You can draw it fully because we are going to make it darker afterwards, no? At this point, just check if your blue is coming blue or is it coming green, because we've used so much of orange and yellow. If you need to change the color of the water, because change the water, not the color of the water, because this the blue has to look pure. 1, 2, 3, 4, between these we have that stripy leaf. I think this is good enough. And that's our motif. Now, after this thing fully dries, we can come back and make the pattern around it. Now, this strategy is better than making the dark line first, because if you start coloring in the dark line, you will pull the color out and then you will have to remake that dark outline again. But this is perfectly fine. This works perfectly fine. Just to test out how good this is going to look, you can make a little bit on either side also. Anyway, just a little bit of the design is visible. Oh, there's a leaf here, I've got. Sometimes if the designs are too complicated, you can make your own design. Something that is repeatable and indicates the design somehow or another. That's all. That's it. This is going to look great. Okay, I think my design over here has dried, the first one. So I'm making the outline with just a pure cobalt blue. When you are making lines or drawing lines with brush, a circle cannot be made complete. Ideally, make half the circle and then come back from the other direction to join it. If you make a full circle, then it fishtails. The brush can fishtail. And now go over some of the lines, like this center line, and outline around the leaves we made. I'm shifting my twirl a little further. It's supposed to be earlier, but it's not going to fit there, so I'm not going to bother. And then I have this here. One more embellishment on this side. And then maybe something coming out from here. I don't know. Now we can use the same thing to make a line on the inside of the entire plate. For this, it's best to rotate the plate. And drag your hand. Don't do this movement. Just drag your entire hand. Keep your fingers steady and drag your hand around. For all these fine lines, make sure that your paint is a little on the thicker side. Huh? Don't keep it too watery and don't overload the brush also. Okay, shall we make the tablecloth now? Are you able to see these shadows now making sense in the plate? The first layer of shadows that we had put. Alright, now for this fabric, the pattern that we have to make, you have to make it for each section the way you see it. Because when a fold comes onto a pattern, it changes what part of the pattern you see. And that is what shows us that there's a fold. So we can make one design on this shape here, like how we see it. Whatever lines you can see, make them that way. And don't think too much about what it represents. Just make the lines as you see them. So part of the design of this, I think it's like a square or diamond shape here, is obscured behind the fold. part of it is sticking out. Then there's some very interesting flower-like shape here. And then I don't know what that is. Then around this orange, sorry, what am I saying? The lemon, you have another nice shape. Draw that. Completely independent of what you see on the other piece of fabric. There's a fold over here also. We don't have to draw the folds. The folds will become evident. There's a fold over here also. So usually the design is broken and it moves, it shifts a little bit when there are folds in fabric. So as far as we are concerned, in each section, it's a separate design. The colors may be the same, but it's a separate design. And some places you just see like these weird blobs. Draw them like weird blobs. So I'm finishing my design in like an a circular base, because I don't like flat edges on an illustration. I prefer to have some kind of design edge. This flat edge is fine, but when coming out of a design, it should not look that. We can have a lot of control over how our design looks. So my intention was to make you paint this directly, but I thought all of you would just exit class if I told you to do that. So I'm, this is also a way to do it, but you can, once you're comfortable, you must try making this without the pencil lines. And I think that comes with some experience. Having done it once, maybe it's the second time round, you know what to look for. And you might be able to make the same casual lines that are required over here. Alright, once this is done, just take the lightest blue that we had, that was our cerulean cobalt mix, the same thing that we used over here, and very casually run it over those patches that you've painted. And in fact, you could also go and change the color halfway. The print on the tablecloth is trying really hard to look like a painting. So, we are painting, we might as well make the most of the painting part of it. Excuse me, one second. Second, sorry. Okay, so as we build this design, because we want to keep it fairly casual, all the lines that we draw in them will start creating that print texture. This is just an automatic process, only because the original texture also has these strokes in them. And another way to do this is also by using color pencil. So after you've painted about so much, you can just switch to color pencils also. I personally enjoy the combination of color pencil and watercolor, but you can do the whole thing in color pencil as well. So that takes care of all these tiny details that maybe you don't want to make in paint. They're not coming properly. And fill it in a very haphazard coloring style. Don't try to make it too refined. The thing with making stuff too refined and painted really perfectly is that it is predictable. You need to also add something that is unpredictable. Now, here there's a little bit of shading on the leaves. It's not just a flat color, so do a little bit of that. And now here we have to show that fold, right? So this fold we can now indicate through pencil shading. Alarm. Alright, sorry about that again. Okay, now beyond this, all the other things also can be colored with color pencil. So you can do some additional shading. And also shadows again in pencil or in paint. There is a yellow colored rim to this hole. And you can use your regular pencil to shade as well. Now these also you can mix with color pencil to create an even more interesting depth. So instead of putting in just an expected deep yellow colored shadow, you could think of adding different colors like a blue or even a green for that matter, and make it more fun. Now, which colors to choose is always a question, and I feel that that is not going to be answered unless you do many of these illustrations. here we are creating the effect of shadows by making like stand-ins. Make a color stand-in in a particular position and then say to the viewer that this is supposed to represent a shadow. So you please fill in the blanks. And you'd be surprised that the eye tends to fill in the blank, eye and brain, quite easily. Here as well, you can make these stripes. You can also leave a highlight if you want or not. You can add some shadows to the base, some inside. Alright, are you getting this? And the last 3 minutes we have to paint this chutney. So while we are dressing the lemons, let us put a couple of colors in the chutney. A mix of gamboge and orange again. Pretty much the same colors that we used for the um, for the orange. And go over almost the entire picture with this orange, where you have the chutney. Make the paint a little thicker than usual. And this is the point where you want patches. So you paint it in sections. In a few places you paint it light, in a few paint it dark with a slightly thicker paint consistency. And we'll let this dry meantime, we have lots of other things to paint. You can go and paint that. So what we've got is an example of monotony, continuity, and here it's just one kind of Indian food where the highlight becomes the tempering. But of course, I'm trying to simplify the process for you to understand. You will find another 4 or 5 different things, then you'll say, okay, this is also another category. But our aim in all of this is pretty much just the same. No matter what you do, your pictures have to be compelling. They don't have to be exact. They don't have to be like a photograph. If a photograph is what you needed, you could have just used a photograph. You have to be able to add something new and something different to the picture. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly complete this chutney thing. It's 12:30 already. So if any of you need to leave, you may leave. I'll complete this and you can watch it in the latter part of the video. It's just gonna take another 5-10 minutes, no more than that. Okay, so you can layer the chutney part with a little bit of a reddish brown color. Using a few strokes of burnt umber, especially underneath the curry patta, and in some form just reinforce those lines that we have made of the shadows. Not too many, not too thick, and they're all manipulated strokes. This will all dry up and become lighter, don't worry about that. Then while this is drying, you can take this time we can take a black and paint around the entire bowl, but not a full black, keep it gray. So I intend to keep a little bit of the rim highlighted. So I'm not painting the entire rim also, just the inside of the bowl. And then taking a deeper color, I can paint the inside of the rim with a flat black. And then the outside of the rim, such that I leave a section in between the two lines unpainted. That will be my automatic highlight. And we do the same thing for the handles as well. Paint from both sides of the handle, leaving a little section unpainted. So the corner that you come to join here, round that off a little bit, because you won't get a sharp highlight at that end. Then finally, we will make a deep green color using black and sap green for our grita. You can use a green also because it looks nice, but don't again paint the whole thing. Leave a few parts unpainted. So do the light color, you can then add a deep shadow afterwards. Those highlights will make this look less of a blob and more of a food item. Now I take the insane trouble of making each grain of mustard seed with a little bit of a highlight because I'm just a nerd. And you can make this in pen if you want to. Um, make just a few of them with a highlight, and the rest can be just dots. That should do the job. But if you can make the highlights, nothing like it. And of course, change the color and use burnt umber with black to make the jeera, which again have a little bit of highlight to that. The black in the color of the jeera will make it look different from these little shadows that we have made. See, this is it. This becomes our chutney. And this is by no means the end of the chutney. You can add more depth to the edge. You can add black to it to make it even more seem like there's a shadow behind that. See? So the more contrast you add, the more believable it tends to look. Alright, have I covered everything? As usual, I have shot and overshot a little bit, made you do too much. We could have just done any one of these and finished it. I had told myself I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to do too many things, but I just get very tempted. I hope it wasn't too much for everyone, huh?
No, we haven't finished. At least I haven't finished much, and I think my chutney dish is ruined. But this is what I've come up with.
Okay. No, I don't expect you to finish it during class. You can finish it afterwards. Take your time. Oh, nice. This is good. Add more, a deeper blue to your lemons.
Okay.
Yeah, you need that
Yes. Yeah.
drama.
No, I'll do the dish again. I'll make the green or the white or whatever, because the highlight of the dish is what I haven't been able to get, and I'll have to do that patiently
But
because
don't,
I was just trying to finish that. But yeah, I
no,
need
no,
to do
don't
the.
do it before you finish this one.
Okay.
Finish this and then take a call because a half done illustration always shows you only the flaws when they are not flaws, they are just half done. So once you complete it, you will be able to it reduces your flaws by a huge amount because it's a finished picture and then it starts looking nice in itself. And after that, if you still feel like doing it, take another picture
Yeah.
and do it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, learned a lot here. Three different kinds of. I like this blue.